Good. All right, you go ahead and go live. Also, hello and welcome to Toepke Gymnasium here in beautiful Metamora, Illinois. It's a rivalry that needs no introduction in its first edition of the 2023-2024 season. It's a packed gym here in Metamora, the reigning Class 3A state champions. Washington Panthers come to town with an upset on their minds. Yes, them, they don't want to call it an upset. It's a rivalry game. Throw those records out the window. It's a Mid-Illini basketball midweek madness here on Clutch Sports Media. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Michael here alongside Teddy Ball. Teddy, already seeing some great basketball here tonight. JV game went to overtime, so we're still warm-ups right now. But anytime you have Washington Metamora play, you just know what you're going to get. You're going to get some really good basketball.
Absolutely, and all Mid-Illini and any conference rivalries will bring the energy up and bring you on your A game, but when it's teams like this with such rich history in the Mid-Illini and all around the state of Illinois, you know you're going to get a show.
Certainly should be. A big storyline for this game was one that wasn't even a thing about 24 hours ago, but now it is. The sudden news that Metamora head coach Danny Greaves, who's been their head coach since 2011, retiring at the end of the season. He made the announcement last night. So this will be his last time hosting the Washington Panthers in a regular season game here at Toepke Gym. Obviously, you never know if these teams, they'll play again later on down the road again at Toepke Gymnasium later in the season. But this could be one of the last times that we have a Danny Greaves on the sideline in a Metamora Washington battle.
Absolutely, and so he wants to go out on top, and you want to go out on the top in every matchup, but it just makes it that much more special in your last year. It honestly is heartbreaking to see him retire, but he's done such great things for this team and this program throughout the years.
Certainly has, including that state championship from last year, second place in the state in 2021. His accomplishments, really too long to list, but Greaves, he's 65 years old. He's had a 44-year coaching career. Pretty outstanding that in itself. Formerly lived down in Mississippi, came out to Metamora, and when they hired him, they said, hey, if you're expecting to win a state championship every year, maybe this isn't the spot for you. He said no. He said that's why I want to come here, is because that should be the expectation. Well, lo and behold, a little over a decade later, two straight trips, I should say, to the state title game, and Metamora looking to do so again behind a very talented group led by P&D transfer Cooper Koch, Tyler Mason, and the list goes on for Metamora.
Absolutely. This team's very talented. They're well-rounded like you could never believe. Last year we thought they couldn't get any better, and they have a possibility of doing that this year with the addition of Cooper Koch and the players they have from that championship team a year ago. It's going to be awesome to see how this team grows and develops throughout the season.
It certainly does, and obviously Metamora loses a little bit, as does Washington from last season. Both these teams have played 4 games this year, both in the Washington TOCs. So we've seen all 4 games of both the Redbirds and the Panthers so far this season. This is their 5th for each team. Washington at 1-3, Metamora at 2-2. But in case you didn't get to watch the TOC, we'll kind of recap you both teams. Obviously, Cooper Koch coming to Metamora. Huge news over the offseason. It was rumored that he was going to come for a little bit. People weren't quite sure. Then it was confirmed before the school year. But they still lose a little bit. They have to replace Tyson Swanson, Drew Tucker, Ethan Kaiser as well. But the emergence of some breakout players should have Metamora still on the exact same trajectory as they were last year.
Absolutely. Ashton Greaves, Matthew Zobrist, Tyler Mason, just some returning starters. Luke Hopp this year making a big comeback, and Nick Walker great off the bench as well. There's really so many guys that can attack you, whether in the starting lineup or just coming off the bench to relieve.
Certainly, and talk about Washington a little bit. They lost a little bit as well. They lost Jake Stewart, Micah Brewer, Jamari White, but they still have some familiar surnames on their team, including the younger brothers of Lewis and Wright, Andre Lewis and Javon White, who have both played very good at the TOC a couple weeks ago. Washington pretty guard heavy, but they got a lot bigger this year. They were a notoriously small team last year. They got some more size this year around.
Absolutely. Javon White, CJ Duncan, Braden Vanderheit, just to name a few, they're definitely brought up that average from last year. It was a big issue for them in some games.
Certainly, as the Metamora school song comes on, it is a packed gym here in Toepke, one of the more intimate environments that you'll see for such high-level basketball in Central Illinois. Packed here on the Washington side, also packed right across the way on the Metamora side. Plenty of cheerleaders. It's going to get very loud in here, Teddy, so overall, what do you think that both of these teams need to do just to try and contain that and, not contain it, I should say, but, try and persevere through that, when it gets intense later on?
Yeah, both of these teams have been in this situation before. Mid-Illini matchups, especially ones like Washington and Metamora, they can get pretty feisty. They got fans that are going to get into it. They have, the teammates are obviously going to get into it as well, and really that's Mid-Illini basketball. That's Central Illinois basketball, and it gets like that sometimes and just comes out to who is more prepared and who's going to be the better team tonight.
It certainly does, and a little bit more about the Washington Panthers. Talked about Metamora. Washington, they went 1-3 at the TOC. They have a pretty big win, though, at number 1 on their record. That was against Burbank St. Lawrence, who's one of the top 3A teams in the state so far this year. Washington, they were in a pretty loaded group at the Washington Invitational portion of the TOC. Faced some other tough teams like Dale from Oklahoma, who Metamora also faced as well. They fell 51-32. They lost to reigning state champ Hoover from Alabama, 70-58, and also to Victory Christian Academy out of Lakeland, Florida, 85-63. But what's so tough about the TOC, Teddy, is it's not such a great tournament. We love seeing the local teams in there, but you don't really exactly know how good the local teams like Washington and Metamora are because they're playing some of the best teams in the entire country. So I think this should be a good test to see where both teams are at.
Absolutely, and we saw both of these teams, have their moments, and like you said, Washington 1-3 and Metamora 2-2. They both have some losses. You might be thinking like, oh, why is this a premier game to watch if you're not familiar with both these teams? But like you mentioned, really good talent on both on the teams they played. Dale, former state champions. Hoover, state champions. Just really great competition all the way around, and that's a great thing to see early on because they test you to see how you're going to play when it comes to playoff basketball.
Certainly, and talking about Danny Greaves on the sideline for Washington, can't forget about Eric Schermerhorn, one of the mainstays of the conference. He's done great things with his program since taking over in 2018, but you mentioned to us after the TOC that during the TOC, Washington had only one practice as a entire team, like with their full roster, because their football team was obviously in the semifinals. So players like Andre Lewis and a couple others like, you had Andre Lewis, you had James Johnson as well on that Washington football team that made it all the way to the Class 6A semifinals. So now you have a whole nother week and almost a half of practices. So I think we may see a much improved Washington team. Also another play I think to watch for them could be X Factor, DeAndre Jackson, a 6'3 guard at senior.
Absolutely. Another thing you failed to mention, not to knock you or anything, but I'm just saying this is a really young Washington team. Last year, a little bit senior heavy, some upperclassmen, but now they have a lot of sophomores, a lot of juniors, a few seniors to lead the way. But this is a team that is hungry. They obviously had a 18-13 season last year, not bad by any means, but Eric Schermerhorn definitely looking to improve that this year.
Panthers are certainly hungry for more, and you mentioned it, Teddy. Just 3 seniors on that Panthers squad. That's Javon White, DeAndre Jackson, and Braden Vanderheit. Metamora, by comparison, they have a little bit of a smaller roster, but they have 6 seniors. Tyler Mason, Kendrick Shaffron, another basketball standout, Luke Hopp, and Nick Walker, Cooper Koch, and Sam Bagol. So this team is obviously, they've been in a state championship or two, and they are experienced, and they are on home court tonight. Should be a great battle here from Toepke Gymnasium. A quick little programming update in case you want to watch 2 games at the same time. CSM also has free live coverage of Manual and Richwoods as well back across the Illinois River, back in Peoria. So pull up maybe a second screen, whether it's on your tablet, your phone, your computer, your TV, you name it, and watch some of the best basketball that Central Illinois has to offer. This is going to be a great night of hoops, and we're glad to finally get things going. It's our first broadcast as the TOC. I feel like this is now where it really hits you.
Absolutely. TOC is a little bit of a different vibe. Obviously, it's basketball season, but once you start getting into regular season play, really feel the environment of how these atmospheres go at it. Metamora, Washington, two pretty close teams in terms of how far apart they are, so teams or fans are going to travel, and we see it here tonight as they are already packed before the game has even started.
Jared Hart, the AD from Metamora, anticipated a sellout crowd that they may have to turn people away from the door. They don't know if they have to turn people away from the door yet, but it is very, very packed in here in Metamora. An all-time classic coming up next on Clutch Sports Media. We're going to step aside, tell you a little bit about CSM Overtime, where we have lots of content, including great write-ups about Washington and Metamora and much more. We'll step aside during the national anthem. I'll come back for the tip-off between the Panthers and the Redbirds.
Central Illinois, we're going to overtime. After 4 years of preps covered in Central Illinois, Clutch Sports Media is ready for a new era. CSM Overtime.
What is CSM Overtime? We're going beyond the broadcast to give you in-depth coverage of your teams,
Your stories.
Your stats and standings.
your highlights and action shots.
With your subscription, you'll get to see news and feature stories from all sports, up-to-date stats from around the area, and thoughtful analysis from our team of experts.
As for our broadcast and social media coverage, it's only getting better.
With your support of Clutch Sports Media Overtime, we'll continue to grow our free broadcast coverage with more sports, more games, and more innovation.
And thanks to our partnership with Too Efficient Media, your social media feeds will be filled with Central Illinois' best sights and sounds.
CSM Overtime will also give you access to full galleries from some of the most talented photographers and videographers in our region.
As the new season approaches, it's time for more.
More action.
More stories.
More coverage of all Central Illinois sports. It's Clutch Sports Media Overtime.
And welcome back to Toepke Gymnasium. Starting lineups getting ready to be introduced for both teams. We'll start with the Washington Panthers. Again, glad you're with us here on Clutch Sports Media. JV game ran late in case you're just tuning in, so you haven't missed anything yet. Starting five for Washington will be Andre Lewis, the 6'1" junior guard. He'll be accompanied by junior forward CJ Duncan. Stays at 6'6". You mentioned, Teddy, he offers size, also offers a lot of shooting ability. Knocked down a lot of threes in Washington's win over St. Lawrence. James Johnson will add some size at 6'5" and a sophomore forward. And DeAndre Jackson, who we mentioned, is a potential X factor for the Panthers, a 6'3" senior guard. And they'll be rounded out by a mainstay of the Washington starting five, senior forward Braden Vanderheit. And as for Metamora, their starting five will go like this as the lights go out in Toepke Gymnasium. Atmosphere, one of the best you'll find around. Here's Metamora's starting five. It's Ashton Greaves, a 6'2" junior guard. He'll be accompanied by Matthew Zobris, 6'5" junior swingman, who's drawing some Division I interest already. He'll be followed by Tyler Mason, committed to Winona State at the Division II level. Great senior point guard for Metamora. Luke Hopp, senior forward at 6'8". And alongside Cooper Koch, the Twin Towers for Metamora now. Having Hopp and Koch down low, Teddy, gives Metamora so much just versatility, because not only can they be good down low, they offer so much height, they can both shoot the ball as well.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to mention. This Metamora team, you see those two standing at 6'8", you think, wow, this is a very paint-dominant team. No, these teams, although they can dominate in the paint, they can really stretch the floor. Both these guys, Luke Hopp has really impressed me in his play at the Tournament of Champions. He played great defensively, offensively. Cooper Koch obviously played great as well. This whole team was really just playing really well together. And although they're 2-2, you know, those early season games, you look back to last year, Metamora started off the season 2-2 and then won a state title. So you never know how it can translate.
Certainly, and talking about Metamora, you know, obviously you have Cooper Koch. He's committed to Iowa over the offseason. You got Mason committed to Winona State. Zobrist is drawing interest from some D1 schools, including Bradley down the road. And you got Luke Hopp and Ashton Greaves, who are pretty good ball players and may have college basketball in their future. So not too often you see a team with 5 potential college-bound players in the Mid-Illini, no less. Not knocking the Mid-Illini, but that's just indicative of the talent. Washington, plenty of it as well. We're ready to get going from Toepke Gym. Metamora wins the tip, and it's over to Tyler Mason to get things going. He'll be guarded right in front of us by Javon White. Now pass goes over to Mason on the wing, finds Koch down low. Kick back out, Greaves, he drives and kicks. Hop now over to Zobrist. Again, first game for this team this year without a shot clock at the head of the TOC. Hop goes down low, but his man wasn't looking and picked off by Vanderheit.
Really, that happens every once in a while for Metamora, but one thing you got to give them props for is just the beautiful ball movement they are able to do. Something that not a lot of teams can say they can do.
DeAndre Jackson wins the race to the loose ball. Great effort there from the senior. Now Washington goes with it. Here's Johnson kicking out to Jackson. Metamora coming out in a man-to-man defense. It's Mason on Lewis, who'll clear some teammates out. Give and go from Jackson. And that one picked off by Luke Hopp. So pretty slow, deliberate possessions for the first 2 of the game. Mason thought about a 3, kicks it over to Koch in the corner, but too strong, and who's got it? Washington does, and Jackson.
It shows the confidence from beyond the arc. We were just talking about the ability to stretch the floor, and he knows he can. He took the shot.
Easy layup down low. That's C.J. Duncan, who had that breakout game against St. Lawrence to start the year. He could be a big-time player for Washington. His first year with major minutes on varsity. Here's Hop. He's got Johnson on him. Now Mason dials up a triple. That one is off the rim and out of bounds.
Just feeling out process early on. We know Metamora plays a very fast style of basketball. And their quick transition offense and in-your-face defense is what really confuses a lot of teams on how to figure out an answer for this team. But if any team can do it, it's a conference rival of theirs.
Here's Vanderheit with it now near half court. Washington with 3 high. Now they go down low and is picked off by Zobrist. He told Washington, you should know better than that. Now Hop dribbles down low. He gets fouled on the way up. I believe he'll be shooting 2 as he was going up with that one when he got hacked.
Really something that has impressed me from Hop from the games I've seen him at Tournament of Champions and even early on tonight. Just his speed. Standing at 6'8", he's really fast and able to get around defenders and be able to finish at the rim and make defensive plays as well.
He's a player that really has developed so much for Metamora. You know, you kind of saw it 2 years ago when he was a sophomore and they went to the state championship game and got second. That you kind of knew he was going to be a big-time player. You just weren't quite sure when. Well, he was a contributor his sophomore year. He started to break out a little bit more last year. And now I think this could be the year that Luke Hopp could start taking over the area. We shall see. Here's Johnson driving right on Koch. Spins and finds Duncan. Now swing around to Javon White. He can light it up. Washington very patient, but Duncan jacks up a 3. It's good. How about that one from C.J. Duncan? He's got all 5 of Washington's points so far.
If you're unfamiliar with Washington basketball, the 3-point shot is a staple of this offense, and it always has been. Really, I don't see a world where it ever won't be.
Going back past couple of years, 2 years ago, you had Ethan Mounts, who was an absolute weapon from behind the arc. Last year, you had Jake Stewart, Micah Brewer, so you mentioned it. 3-pointers, big weapon for Washington. Are they from Metamora? Zobrist thought so, but not quite. Redbirds off to an 0 for 3 start from deep so far. That one will go back to the Panthers.
Looks like Koch.
I don't know. We'll say with Metamora, pardon.
Looks like he bounced it off of the back of his man.
And White will come off. Jackson will come back in for Washington. It'll be Mason to inbound. He finds Greaves wide open in the corner. Nice inbounds play. Greaves didn't find anything. Koch hustles for the rebound and rakes it in. Now DeGreaves down low. He's blocked. No, he's fouled by Jackson. So the three-point shooting struggles from Metamora continue, but how about the hustle play from Koch?
Absolutely. This is something you're going to see all night long. No matter how far down Metamora might go, they're always going to be aggressive on like getting rebounds and just anything, trying to get steals, anything to get you back in the game. That's just this Metamora team in general. It's what they stand by.
A little bit of the Washington student section has made the trip. I should say a lot of Washington student section has made the trip. Decked out in orange just to the left of us as Greaves knocks down 2 free throws despite chance of air ball from the student section. Panthers still leading. First Mid-Illini contest of the year for both teams. These two teams are the only teams in the conference not to have played a conference game yet. Panthers continue to play hot potato. Pass over to Johnson with Koch on him. Jackson backs out from the corner. Now Koch comes out. Here comes a double team. Lewis tries to dribble in on Koch, and that one much too strong. I think he anticipated some contact. Comes away with a steal, and now Washington will go the other way. Here's Johnson. He'll challenge Koch, and he got pushed by the Iowa commit. That'll be the first foul on Metamora.
Already hearing a little bit of chirping from the Washington student section.
Lewis coming in for Jackson. Vanderheit will inbound. He'll go upstairs to Duncan. Tries to cross up Greaves rather, and drives left, kicks it back out. Al Lewis over to Duncan. Great ball movement still by the Panthers. Now is Duncan with it. They were going to see a pretty low-scoring game here tonight, Teddy. Nice feed down low and swatted by Zobrist, but he got a little bit of Lewis, and he'll head to the line for 2. Nice ball movement, a nice cut. Rather, that was not Lewis, that was Javon White.
As I was just about to say, when you mentioned the low-scoring game, it's the rivalry games. You're going to have a lot of intense defensive plays, and as soon as I was just thinking that.
First free throw from White, a bit too short.
John, something we mentioned. Go ahead.
Second one is too strong.
Something we mentioned early on is that this Washington team possesses height like last year's team wasn't able to give, and really it's going to be interesting to see how they play the rest of the year, because last year didn't have that height. Now they have a bunch of guys standing over 6 foot in the high 6 foot even.
Mason driving in and the finish. Nice tough bucket from the senior guard. Now Washington comes quickly the other way. It's Duncan kicking. Now it's over to Vanderheit. He lays one in on Hop, and Washington gets the lead right back. Vanderheit was by far the tallest player on Washington last year, just 6'4". But now he's got James Johnson now with him, playing some more minutes, and also C.J. Duncan at 6'6". So now Washington goes from one of the smaller teams in the conference to one of the bigger teams. Hop wide open for 3 for the lead, and got it.
Scary to guard that guy. He's able to do it down low, and we've mentioned several times already from beyond the arc as well.
Metamora leading 9-7 here in the first quarter of action at Toepke Gymnasium. Metamora won both matchups last year, including a 62-25 win, if I'm not mistaken, going off of straight memory there, but it was his first game after the TOC. They made a statement. We'll see what happens tonight. Johnson driving in. He's got Lewis, but now finds Vanderheit wide open. And off too strong off the back iron. Koch definitely altered that shot. Now Metamora the other way, and Greaves lays it in. 5 straight for Metamora. Been a pretty slow-paced game to this point, but there have been a decent amount of transition opportunities for both the Panthers and the Redbirds. That shot from Duncan off the elbow, no good. Now here comes Koch the other way. Doesn't have numbers, he'll slow things down. Here's Zobrist. There goes the roof.
Started off
a big
slow.
run for Metamora, and the Redbird fans love it. 8 straight, and Washington calls timeout. Probably pretty good decision by Eric Schermerhorn. He can't let Metamora keep the good vibes rolling.
Absolutely. When they get on a run, there's really no stopping them, and if you can stop them, your team is very impressive. So good idea of calling the timeout. But what I was going to say, started off a little slow from beyond the arc, and just like that, that's how fast Metamora is able to just get back into games and get their confidence right back. It just players like Zobrist, players like Koch, really all around just able to make plays.
Certainly, and one of the best games that I saw of Metamora so far this year in the young season was against Dale. That overtime game at TOC, that was an all-time classic. Oklahoma commit Dayton Forsyth scored 49 for the Pirates, who won 69-65 in overtime. But there were a couple times in that game where Metamora looked like they didn't have much of a chance. They came back and made it a great ball game and nearly won it against one of the best teams from the Sooner State. Not sure if the Sooner State's Oklahoma's official title, but I believe that's correct. As driving in, that was Duncan again, so he's got 7 for Washington. Zobrist now goes back over to Hop. Washington bringing the man defense as well, and need to stay with him behind the arc. Now Hop cuts down low and gets fouled. Led to the line. That one is going to go, I believe, on James Johnson, his first. Rather, that one's on DeAndre Jackson, and that's Jackson's second.
Definitely don't want to get in foul trouble early. Can't afford too many of them.
So Jackson will come out, and White will come back in. Washington, pretty deep team. They carry a lot of players, and all of them can contribute as Hop goes 1 for 2 at the line. Player to watch off the bench for the Panthers this year is Luke Kaminsky. Had a big-time outing behind the arc back at the TOC, just a sophomore guard. Duncan almost intercepted by Greaves. Here's Vanderheit for 3. And a big shot for Washington to potentially close the quarter. And narrow the gap down to 3.
Zobrist looking to take the last shot. 11 seconds left on the shot clock.
Down to 6, now down to 5. Zobrist shooting up from the corner, and it hits nothing. And it'll go back to Washington. They'll have a chance to go into the second quarter with a tie-ball game. 2 air balls for Metamora behind the arc so far. Here's Johnson with 2, with 1 from half court. Too strong. And behind an 8-0 run, the Redbirds lead 15-12 after 1 quarter of play. And Ted, I don't make too many assumptions, jump to conclusions too early in this one, but I don't think we're going to see a 62-25 game like we did last year. I think this was going to be a lot closer.
Absolutely. I think, like we mentioned a few times now, just the size of Washington is definitely different than something that Metamora has, prepared for in the past. They are a lot bigger of a team, and they still possess that same Washington grittiness that they always have defensively, and just able to shoot the ball from really anywhere beyond the arc and have all 5 players able to shoot from the 3. Something Metamora is probably not prepared for, but both of these teams very competitive, in for a good one.
They certainly are. As getting a look at some other basketball scores, Illinois pulled off a big win against Florida Atlantic just now, 98-89. However, Bradley is in trouble on the road against Akron. They trail 59-47. They're playing without Connor Hickman, a guard who got hurt in their most recent game, but lots of great basketball around the area. Again, we have Manuel and Richwoods for you, also on Clutch Sports Media. You can find that on our website and also our YouTube page as well. Another big game in the area to watch, I think, is Morton and Peoria High. Teddy, I know how much you know about Morton. I know we saw in the TOC. I think the Pirates can have a good season as well and challenge both the Panthers and the Redbirds at the top of the conference.
Absolutely, and for a couple years now, it's kind of been Metamora's conference, and there's several teams that are competitive, make the playoffs, but Morton and TOC looked very, very good, dominant in some of their wins, and definitely one of the teams that can contend for a possible Mid-Illini championship.
And we Washington ball to start the second quarter. Panthers taking their time on offense. Now here's Duncan backing down. Fakes out Greaves for a nice turnaround. Duncan's got 9. How about the performance already from the junior forward? Now Mason gets a screen. Here's Zobrist driving on Duncan. Kicking down low to a wide open Nick Walker.
Great vision by Zobrist, able to find a man. Really didn't look like a no-look pass.
Ball movement for Metamora has certainly been there tonight, as it has been for Washington as well. Been pretty even in both aspects. I think Washington's been shooting a little bit better. Metamora has been finding more ways to get it in the tin. Johnson in some trouble, gets that low to Lewis. Drives baseline and a wide open bunny. Now Metamora the other way. He'll give it to Mason. Now Koch got some height there on Javon White. Zobrist steps back from the free throw line. Pretty shot, just missed, but there's Nick Walker for the board. And Koch caught it behind his back, lost control of it. Washington basketball.
If Metamora wants to take a lead, they got to clean up on that. It's happened a couple times now. Just little errors like that, little issues you got to clean up on. And I believe Coach Greaves, if he's the one that can teach anything from this team, it's definitely one of those.
Mason will bring a little bit of pressure to Lewis. Now back to Johnson, guarded by Koch. It's a screen from Vanderhyde, but dribbles left. Now it's Vanderhyde, who's drained to 3, driving baseline over to Lewis. Offensive foul, nice charge drawn by Tyler Mason. Not too often you see charges drawn on shots that, or plays that aren't shots. Mason, though, was aware enough to draw the foul.
Colin Ramage checks in for Ashton Greaves.
Two pretty familiar last names around Metamora. Obviously, Colin Ramage, who is related to Katie Ramage, the softball standard, who's going to Northern Illinois now. Ramage, one of just a few players that wasn't a part of last year's team. I believe he's the only player on the varsity roster this year that wasn't a part of last year's squad. Here's Johnson with the board. Driving up the court. Now he'll pass it back to Vanderhyde. Vanderhyde hands off to Lewis. No one down low for Washington. It's a team that likes their cuts. Now Duncan will get a screen from White. White comes to the top of the key. With Walker on him, he'll drive right on him, and he'll bounce off of his foot and go out of bounds. So scoring is halted just a little bit. Metamora still hanging on by 1. Will Martin coming into the game for Washington. Teddy, I gotta say, I almost thought for a second that Jake Stewart made a return. His appearance compared to Will Martin's, same number, and they kind of look sort of similar as well. I thought he came back for a second.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. Now that you say it.
Here's Zobrist, a deep 3, no good. Rebound brought in by Vanderhyde. Here comes Washington transition. Lewis will slow things down from mid-range, no good. They're gonna call a foul on CJ Duncan. That will be his first and Washington's second of the second quarter.
Cobb checks back in for the Redbirds.
Teddy, I think this is a game where both teams are really going to have to maximize transition opportunities off of rebounds. Haven't seen, obviously it's been a slower paced game. Both these teams are pretty good at shooting the ball, so anytime you can get those boards and go back for an easy two, that could, I think, be a big factor in this one as we're going to foul down low. This one is going to go on Johnson. That's his second, so now he and Jackson both have 2 apiece.
You mentioned just kind of controlling the pace. That's something we've seen Metamora do so good over the last couple of years, and is able to get transition offense, transition buckets. Koch drives in and lays it in.
Koch goes high off the glass with that one. That one was, made it look easy. That's his first bucket of the contest. Now here's Lewis with it the other way. Washington will see if they can get something going outside of Duncan. He's got 9 tonight, but see if they can get some other players involved. Martin thought about a 3. He'll find Jackson in the corner. Now back to Lewis. Lewis being aggressive, finds Jackson down low for the easy deuce. Now it's Ramage with it off the bench, driving into the paint. And he got, travel. Thought he got hacked for a second, but he took 2 steps. Our referee crew tonight led by longtime, I should say, official Don King. Letting him play a little bit. I think I have to let him play in a rivalry matchup like this.
Yeah, it's gonna be very physical in these type of games. You just gotta let the boys play.
I think talking about a lot of the TOC, I think the refs at TOC did an absolutely fantastic job. Not too many calls that made anyone feel too upset. I'm sure there were probably some, but overall, they let the guys play, which is, especially when you see good basketball, that's what you want to see. You don't want to see it come down to a free throw fest, as Metamora will get a little handsy here. That one will go on Mason, so now that's Metamora's just their first of the second quarter. Again, brand new this year is the elimination of the old rule where there's 10 team fouls and a half, and then you get a double bonus once you get to 10. Now, there's no more 1-and-1, and you get in the double bonus once you get to 5 fouls in a quarter. Johnson backing down Koch, and Walker's there for the miss. Redbirds in transition. Here's Mason. That shot's in his range. Now it's to Koch in the corner. He likes that one, and you see why. Koch now up to 5, and Metamora's lead stretches up to 4.
Very hard to really find an adjustment if you're Washington. You have guys like Luke Hopp and Cooper Koch both standing at 6'8", shooting from beyond the arc. It's definitely not easy to guard, John.
Washington swings it around the perimeter. And Pierce Martin into the game for Washington. For Jackson, who's on the bench with 2 fouls, as does Johnson, who has the ball now. Tells Martin to clear out. Now gives over to Vanderheit. He's got 5 in the half. Two minutes left to play here in the first stanza in Metamora. Vanderheit's got a wide open 3. Nothing doing there, but it's off the foot of Ramage. It'll stay with the Panthers. They kind of got bailed out there. See a couple air balls for both teams tonight, Teddy. You got to wonder, maybe that's a little bit of a maybe TOC hangover. It's been about a week and a half since either of these teams have played in game action. As Duncan, how about that one with the right hand? Spins around and in, and now Duncan's got more than half of Washington's offense with 11.
He's been on fire all night long.
As we're at a blocking foul here on Duncan. He was trying to get set for the charge, but alas could not. Rather, that one's on Vanderheit. My eyes continue to deceive me tonight. That's Vanderheit's second foul. It's now a trio of Washington starters with 2 fouls, something to keep an eye on. Here's Koch. Having a hot play, a 2-man game. Now over to Greaves. Shot fakes, loses it, and recovers it before it goes out. Nice pass from Koch to Walker in the corner. Now Walker decides to shoot, and it's short. Here comes Vanderheit with the board. He pushes it up. Little floater off the glass and in. Vanderheit played a nice game as well. He's got 7, and Washington has tied it up.
Washington's starting to take control of that transition offense, those transition opportunities that Metamora really hasn't done too well. Obviously, it's a tie game, but in terms of the fast-paced transition opportunities and buckets, Washington has definitely had the lead.
Certainly, and now is Metamora. They kind of got that little flourish in the first quarter as they had a advantage 17-15 at the end of the first. Now Washington looks to end the second quarter on a little bit of their own run. Here's Johnson, now kicking it over to Martin. Refs, should say fans a little upset about something, not sure what. Johnson drives in, and the charge drawn by Walker. That will be Johnson's 3rd foul.
Sketchy business now, 5 fouls for Metamora, or for Washington already. Not a situation you want to be in, especially in a close game.
So Metamora, that's a 5th team foul on Washington, but since it's all offensive, doesn't count as a team foul. As the officials and Jared Hart, Metamora's AD, wipe up some sweat on the floor from assumingly Nick Walker, who drew that charge. Now Metamora can hold for the last shot. Mason drives in with the right hand, throws one up, no good. A little bit of a hasty shot from Metamora. Now Washington has a chance to take a lead into the locker room.
Yeah, not quite sure why they would rush the shot clock that early. Maybe try to get another possession, but now you get the ball in the hands of Washington. They're very dangerous.
Here's Duncan with it now, and Metamora's got fouls to give. They'll use one here. It's a good player to do it. Ashton Greaves, he doesn't have a foul yet, so that'll be his first. Metamora's 3rd, and they'll force Washington to reset.
Sophomore Kaminsky checks back in for the Panthers.
And that's going to be a backcourt violation. Left-footed Duncan had a little bit too much momentum, carried it over, so now Redbirds will get the last shot of the first half after all. Or maybe not. Maybe they'll throw up another quick shot.
You never know. These teams are trying to go fast right now.
I think you definitely hold for the last shot here. Maybe try to get Koch open in the corner. That's certainly his spot. Here's Zobrist with 4, now with 3. Kicks it to Hop in the corner. That was blocked by Javon White to end the first half. And we have a all-knotted ball game at the intermission, 22-all here in Metamora.
You got to give credit to Washington. They've played great so far. And we keep mentioning, but this is absolutely a new-look Washington team. And they were really good last year, and who knows how good they're going to be this year, because this team looks scary to compete with Metamora how they are.
Certainly does, and the Panthers, I mean, C.J. Duncan, really this could be his big coming out party, as if he didn't have one already against Burbank St. Lawrence during the TOC. But he's got 11 of Washington's 22. Vanderheit has 7. Andre Lewis has a bucket, as does DeAndre Jackson. But more spread out a little bit more. They've had Luke Hopp. He's got 6. Koch has 5. Walker has 2. Greaves has 4. Zobrist has 3. Mason has 2. So I think Metamora, I think they can really go to anybody in the second half because no one's really been that one breakout player yet. It's kind of just pick your poison, and that's how Metamora is so dangerous.
Absolutely. It's really hard for a team to defensively prepare for Metamora because you could lock up one of their best players, and then another player comes off the bench or just in the starting lineup, and they fill that role perfectly. It's any given moment, any one of those players can strike.
It definitely can, as we've hit halftime here in Metamora, the opening conference game for both teams. To see on the Mid-Illini standings board over on the left edge of the gym, Morton, Pekin, East Peoria, they've all racked up wins already, as has Limestone. Canton and Dunlap looking for their first Mid-Illini wins. Still, they're 0-1, but lots of basketball left to be played. Teddy, I know you're from Pekin, so I know you follow a lot of area basketball, but Pekin may be a team that you know a little bit more of. What are you expecting out of the Dragons, and also just the Mid-Illini this year?
I'm very optimistic. I think Matthew Juergens is one of the best players in the area. Last year as a junior, he was a phenomenal scorer and just an all-around guy. Dom Hawkins coming off an injury right now. He's got a finger injury, but I think he should be cleared for Pekin's next game. He's an exciting player to watch as well. Really just, I don't know, I'm just very optimistic for my Dragons. That's about all I could say. Daniel Cash, a great shooter as well. I don't know. I think they can be solid.
Certainly, and some other schools in the conferences. Real quick, I want to touch back on Pekin. By the way, they had a big-time win in overtime against a Big 12 foe, Champaign Central, 62-60 on Saturday. Matthew Juergens, you mentioned, drops 29. So he could be a first-team all-conference pick this year. He's a guy to keep an eye on as well. We talked about Morton as well. East Peoria, I think, could be a very big dark horse. He has a lot of young talent there. Cole DuBois, Quentin Kitt, a freshman forward. That's the name you should know. And they also bring back A.J. Reinders from last year. And then, Dunlap, they still got some pieces. Max Sutter's got a sprained ankle right now. Once he comes back, Dunlap will certainly be a force to be reckoned with. And you never know. You might see from Limestone can't either. But regardless, that's just the Mid-Illini. We haven't even talked about the Big 12 yet. We'll do so here in just a second. We're going to take a quick break here from Metamora. Step aside. And more halftime coverage here live from Toepke Gymnasium. Washington and Metamora tied at the half. Don't go anywhere, folks. This is a classic. We may have another chapter in it here tonight.
Central Illinois, we're going to overtime. After 4 years of preps coverage in Central Illinois, Clutch Sports Media is ready for a new era. CSM Overtime.
What is CSM Overtime? We're going beyond the broadcast to give you in-depth coverage of your teams,
Your stories. Your stats and standings.
your highlights and action shots.
With your subscription, you'll get to see news and feature stories from all sports, up-to-date stats from around the area, and thoughtful analysis from our team of experts. As for our broadcast and social media coverage, it's only getting better.
With your support of Clutch Sports Media Overtime, we'll continue to grow our free broadcast coverage with more sports, more games, and more innovation.
And thanks to our partnership with Too Efficient Media, your social media feeds will be filled with Central Illinois' best sights and sounds. CSM Overtime will also give you access to full galleries from some of the most talented photographers and videographers in our region.
As the new season approaches, it's time for more.
More action. More stories.
More coverage of all Central Illinois sports. It's Clutch Sports Media Overtime.
And welcome back to Toepke Gymnasium here at Metamora. Tie ball game here at halftime. Although we have a little bit more separation in it. Our other game being broadcast right now, Manual and Richwoods, also on Clutch Sports Media from the Dungeon. Richwoods leading 50-32 in the third quarter of action. Richwoods looking like a very dangerous team this year, Teddy. The impact of that Lathan Somerville has on that team can't be understated enough. Obviously, the Rutgers commit played at a prep school down in Georgia. He's coming back now to Richwoods, back to his home city obviously the son of Marcellus Somerville, a Bradley great. And obviously, Richards has so many good guards. Guys got guys like Tavy Smith, Jared Jackson, Nick Louderman, many more. But having that big presence down low, I think, is really going to take Richards a long way. They bring a lot back from last season.
Yeah, last season was a special year for Rich Woods. There's a lot of games that really impressed me being at and had a successful season. And they're one of the teams that this year are really highly regarded as one of the best teams in the area, just like, you know, the Metamoras, and that's going to be an interesting matchup to see hopefully down the season as well. Just very excited to see how Richwoods plays out.
Who knows what could be coming down the line. I think a Richwoods Metamora, Richwoods Washington 3A regional or sectional could be very, very possible. And it would almost be unfortunate to have two of those aforementioned teams meet in a regional, because I think all of those teams are worthy of going very, very deep in the same playoffs, as is Manual. They're led by Dietrich Richardson, a junior forward who's drawing lots of D1 interest. Took a visit to Illinois not too long ago. He's got some connections there. He's the nephew of DJ Richardson, a former Illinois guard. That's back from when I was growing up. I don't know if you recall DJ Richardson at all. Ted, you watch much Illinois basketball?
I can't say I do.
Man, had to coach you up on the history of some Illinois basketball sometime. But DJ Richardson, obviously from Peoria, from Manual specifically, and the Rams are going to be really good. They bring back Jarrell Traps, a couple other good players as well. So yeah, that game also live on ClutchSportsIL.com and our YouTube page. We're probably going to see both those teams quite a bit throughout the season. Let's take a look at what we got next for both teams. Teddy, who's Washington have coming up after this?
Obviously, you got this game to finish up, but after that, we got a few Mid-Illini matchups. We got Pekin and Bloomington, not Mid-Illini, but then Limestone, East Peoria, and Dunlap over the next few weeks. Definitely some interesting matchups there. And as we try to get here, see what Metamora has going on. From Metamora, have Washington, then Morton, then Canton, then Pekin, then O'Fallon, then Limestone over that same stretch. A lot of Mid-Illini opponents and outside as well.
Yeah, certainly, and that Metamora-Morton game on Friday is going to be very big, so that's one of your chances to see more great action from the Peoria area. Lots of great games to start the, I guess the regular season's already been started, but start the post-Thanksgiving tournament regular season is, I guess, the best way to put it. Potters, again, looking good this year. They're undefeated at the moment. And you mentioned the games against Canton and Pekin. Big game against O'Fallon. That's a 4A team that they'll play. That will be at the University of Illinois Springfield Shootout down in Springfield. So that'll be a big game for the Redbirds. And then you mentioned that game against Limestone as well. Metamora, they'll also head to the Jack Tosh Memorial Tournament up in Elmhurst, one of the best holiday tournaments in the state of Illinois. Make another trip back there. They went last year and fared pretty well. So you have holiday basketball later on in December. Clutch Sports Media will have live coverage from the State Farm Holiday Classic for the third straight year. So that should be pretty fun as well. And a couple other games in between. So stay tuned to our social media pages for those schedule announcements. Maybe somewhere later in the week, next week, week after that, who knows? I mean, lots of good basketball, both on the boys and also on the girls' side as well. I want to forget about them. Washington, I know their girls' team is also going to be pretty good this year, even without Claire McDougal.
Absolutely. Washington last year was one of the most fun teams to watch. A lot of that because of Claire McDougal, but they still have a lot of players returning. Becca McDougal, the sister to Claire McDougal, she is a baller, and a lot of players from that last year team that made it pretty far. And really just all around Central Illinois, Leah Guyton and the Central Lions here in Peoria, and a lot of talent and hopeful fans over there in Peoria.
Certainly, it's a little bit of a rebuilding year, at least right now for Metamora girls basketball. They lost a little bit, but still trying to plenty of time to make a push in the Mid-Illini race. Girls season's been going on a little bit longer than the boys have. Obviously, they started a week earlier and they end a week earlier, but take a look and see if we can find any scores from around the areas. Again, we're at halftime here of Washington and Metamora. It's been a thrilling game so far. Low score, and that doesn't mean it's been short on excitement. They're all tied up here at 22. Try and get a look and see at other games around the area. Dunlap girls basketball leads Limestone 35-28 at the end of the third quarter. So up at the Limestone girls team hanging in with Dunlap. And at halftime of Richwoods and Emmanuel, Lathan Somerville had 14 points, 4 rebounds. Tavy Smith had 13. So the yin-yang duo of Richwoods big guard and big forward and star guard doing good things for the Knights. Manuel was led by 6 points from Dietrich Richardson and Nas Jackson, a East Peoria transfer. Morton girls, they're taking on Metamora tonight. That should be a good game at the Potter Dome. So looking for other scores, Fieldcrest in small school action. They're winners over Putnam County, 64-52. So Fieldcrest moves to 3-0 on the year. Those are all the scores we have right now. But stay tuned. We'll also have a full recap of all the night's action on the roundup on CSM Overtime, and we have those every single night during the season. Scores, stats, and the best performances from around the area. So definitely should go and check that out. We'll lots more written content coming out soon. Lots of team previews. It's a good place to find all sorts of basketball stuff. All local teams around the area.
Overtime is definitely something I check out every night. It's cool to see what all the teams are going around. If you don't have time to tune into every single game or look at max preps all throughout the day, it's a great way to see what you missed.
Definitely head to clutchsportsil.com/overtime to check things out. Who knows? Maybe a CSM Overtime subscription could be a good Christmas gift. Keep your eyes peeled for a potential holiday sale. We'll have to see if Santa's feeling generous this year. I will say that's one thing that hasn't been asked for in the history of Christmas, a CSM Overtime subscription, because it's the first year. So certainly check it out. That's about a minute or so left till halftime. Glad you're sticking with us here through halftime at Toepke Gym. It's a great environment here in Metamora. We're all tied up. A minute left to go before the third quarter. Teddy, real quick, what do you think both these teams need to do in the second half to pull the victory here?
For Washington, they're playing really, really well. Just great transition offense and guarding Metamora better than I might have expected. Just continue what you're doing. It's obviously a close game and you want to take a little bit of a lead, but at the same time, sometimes when Metamora goes down by too much, that momentum kicks in and the fear of losing that this Metamora team just refuses to do on most nights kicks in. Really just hang in there and try your best throughout the rest of the game. You're deadlocked right now at 22. You're playing great. As for Metamora, you got to clean up the errors, a lot of turnovers so far. Maybe try to make more of a presence down low. A lot of shots around the arc. Some have fallen, but a lot have not as well. So just try to use your size down low, and that'll open up shots around the perimeter.
It's a good point. Metamora, a very good shooting team, but struggled a bit, especially from three-point land back in the first quarter. So we'll see how much they go to Hop and Koch down low. I'm sure Danny Greaves, Eric Schermerhorn, we're coaching those guys up pretty good in their respective halftime breaks. Two of the best head coaches in the area. And it's easy to see why, because both these teams, no matter who they have on their team, are thought to be reckoned with year in and year out. We'll see who pulls away in the second half. Starting five on the court for Metamora is Hop, and his shot is altered by Will Martin. Metamora's got Hop, Mason, Zobrist, Koch, and Greaves. Their same starting five. Washington goes with Martin, Jackson, Vanderheit, Duncan, and Lewis. Nice feed down low, the back door. It'll bounce off the leg of Mason and stay with the Panthers.
I guess something I forgot to mention when talking about the keys for Washington, really just keep feeding C.J. Duncan. Obviously you want to move the ball around, but if someone's playing as good as he is so far with half of your points.
Pass from Jackson taken away by Mason, who slams it home. What a way to start the second half with an exclamation mark.
It's stuff like that that gets the momentum just shifted in Metamora's favor. They really feed off of crowd reaction sometimes. That's how it feels like, at least.
Doesn't take much to get this Metamora crowd jacked up as Lewis, his shot is blocked by a nest of Redbirds. Here's Greaves now the other way, the grandson of Metamora's head coach, and they go over and back without noticing. Again, you mentioned those little mental errors. Maybe not your typical turnover, but still counts as one nonetheless.
Yeah, and it gets in your head a little bit. You got to try to eliminate that and just move on. Coach Greaves definitely tried to get them to do that in halftime.
Here's Lewis now giving it to Martin. All but 4 of Washington's points have come from either Vanderhyde or Duncan. There's some confusion, at least briefly, on whose ball it is. It will stay with the Panthers. Vanderhyde inbounds it over to Lewis. He's just got 2 points so far tonight. Brings a lot of varsity experience and leadership back to this Washington group. Washington will swing it around. Pass up to Jackson. Probably not going to see Washington go down low maybe as much as Metamora, considering Metamora's Twin Towers, but how about that? Will Martin making this announcer eat his own words. Nice cut down low for an easy bucket. It's Martin's first score of the game. As the Panther sideline chants D up. Here's Hop handing off to Mason. His 3 ball is good.
It's never a good day when Tyler Mason starts cooking. He's someone that can just completely change the outcome of a game.
Mason's a player that, it's not always easy to see when a player can kick it in the second gear, but Mason in the second half, it seems like every time you just watch him and you just know that he is just doing everything he can to will his team to victory. Is a 3 ball from Lewis. How about the members bounce? That one's good, and Lewis is now up to 5. Ping pong game, back and forth here in the second half. Koch down low, and they're going to may get either Duncan or Jackson with a foul. That's going to go on DeAndre Jackson, so that's his 3rd. James Johnson, remember, also has 3 as well.
Koch and Hop both down low. Now back to the top of the key, dishes it in.
Nice entry pass to Zobrist, who finishes it off for the bucket. Now we'll see if Washington can respond for the 3rd straight time here in this 3rd quarter. Lewis gets it across the timeline before he's put in the coffin corner, escapes out of it, dribbles in. Nice reverse, but too much English on it. And Mason corrals it in. Foul on Washington. That's going to be on Jackson. That's his 4th. Can't afford that backcourt foul. Now Jackson's going to have to sit for probably quite some time as Johnson comes back in now with his 3 fouls.
It is the 3rd quarter, but it's early in the 3rd quarter, and can't be doing that, especially if you're in a close deadlock game with Metamora. Got to try to stay as clean as you can. I don't know if you saw that, John, though, but Ashton Greaves saved the ball there with his face.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a tough angle for me, but you got a little bit better angle sitting to my right, so you can see the left sideline a little bit better than I can. We're in amongst the fans here at Toepke Gymnasium, pretty intimate environment, so rubbing shoulders with all the fans that decided to trek it out, but also want to thank all of our viewers watching from the comfort of his home as well. No traffic coming in. Save some ticket money as well. Maybe eat something. Concessions at Metamora, though, also pretty good when you do decide to come out to Toepke Gymnasium. So after a Quick 30-second timeout from Washington. Here's the Redbirds looking to jump ahead by 2 scores. It's Greaves in the corner for 3. That one rolls in.
Now all-around effort, this is what we talked about. It's not just one guy for Metamora. It can consistently be anyone out there on the court.
Balanced score tonight for sure. Greaves and Mason have 7. Zobrist has 5. Hop has 6, and Koch has 5. Panthers setting up their offense. Now up top, here's Johnson. He'll attract the defensive Koch, who will stay on him. Johnson backing in, kicking out. And Panthers reset. Lewis beats Mason, dribbles into the free throw line. Mid-range was not kind to him. And another foul on Washington in the backcourt. That's already their 3rd foul of the quarter. That'll be the first on Will Martin.
Coach Schermerhorn not too happy over there on the sideline. Want to keep it clean. You have a few players in foul trouble. Now your team as a whole is getting to that point.
Now Metamora can make it a 3-possession game. Greaves wide open. And that's going to be a foul on Martin again. So that's Washington's now 4th in just over 4 minutes. But looks like he may have hooked Greaves there as he tried to follow his own shot. So now Metamora will be shooting free throws the rest of the way in this 3rd quarter. Here's Koch, immediately double teamed. Hop down low. Martin, nice hands, takes it back away. Now Washington in transition will slow things down. Johnson directs traffic with Greaves on him. It's a matchup that he likes. He kicks it back out. Duncan was right there. Vanderheit shot fakes. And he'll set a screen for Johnson, who will dribble in, kick it back out. Here's a 3-ball from Duncan off the side of the backboard. Lots of drive-in kick offense for Washington. It's kind of what you have to do with Hop and Koch down low, and they're going to get Martin for his 3rd foul in the span of a minute. So now you got 3 players with at least 3 fouls, and you got Jackson with 4 now for Washington. CJ Duncan, though, only has 1.
It looks like Martin will check out. Probably safe to say, oh no, he will stay in. Little risky.
Looks like Javon White's going to check in. It looks like he will do so, but after this first attempt, a little bit too eager to get into the game.
Martin will check out.
Was White, but hey, you can't blame him. These Washington Metamora games are certainly a core memory for these players, and it's a date that's always circled on the calendar for both teams. Koch goes 2 for 2 at the line. Metamora's lead now 7. Here's White, just checked in. Now Johnson driving in on Koch with the left hand. Pretty shot from Johnson. Able to negate the height there from Koch with great placement off the backboard.
James Johnson, only a sophomore.
And Zobrist goes the other way with a quick layup. Now is Johnson. Baskett's coming left and right.
As I mentioned, he's only a sophomore before I got cut off by the other team scoring, but he's someone that can definitely be a part of this Washington program for obviously this year and 2 more years to come. In the starting lineup now, he's very talented.
Nice feed down low, and Koch was fouled. That one maybe going on Vanderheit. And if so, that'd be Vanderheit's 3rd. So we'll have to see if Washington can keep this close and maybe overtime becomes a possibility. Advantage certainly favors Metamora due to not being in foul trouble. That is Vanderheit's 3rd.
Metamora, they're a team that's so good at making difficult shots, so you definitely don't want to give them the easy shots at the free throw line.
Koch sank the first free throw and goes 2 for 2. Certainly something that isn't an issue for him. He's usually pretty money from the line. Vanderheit now between the circles, hands off to Duncan. Pass deflected. And that will be a backcourt violation after it goes off the fingertip of Javon White. So a couple fouls, a couple turnovers in this third quarter certainly is belonging to Metamora. Washington still very much in it.
Just a 7-point game.
Now go to Greaves. Walker was open for a second down low. Mason driving right. His pass off the foot of Johnson, so a kick ball will result in it staying here with the Redbirds.
Game has really flown by though, John. 1:23 left here in the third. Just like it just started.
It has been a fast-moving game after the late start due to the JV game going into overtime. Metamora won that game, by the way. And Mason's three balls off the mark. And Lewis comes away with it, slips and falls at half court. Now Zobrist, his three, there it goes! Toepke Gymnasium is on their feet going wild.
Just like that, it's a 10-point game. By no means is it over, but you got to try to get something here if you're Washington.
I've had a response more often than not tonight, but need to get something going. Johnson dribbling in. Nice cut by Vanderheit, but taken away by Walker. Metamora has just been in every passing lane tonight. Zobrist. Talk about passing lanes, there's Johnson with a steal. He gets past Walker, dribbling in on Koch. Pass fake. That will be a blocking call on Koch. And the first team foul of the third quarter on Metamora.
If you have first team foul, the third, with 28 seconds left, you did a pretty good job throughout the quarter. Playing pretty well, pretty clean.
Nice aggressiveness from Johnson to take it to the rack. I admire his aggressiveness here in his third quarter, despite him, playing with those three fouls. Not afraid to go in and almost take the gamble of, there's a chance you could get called for a charge. Koch tried his best.
I think he knows he's not the only teammate of his that, is in foul trouble, so you can't all play cautious, because then you risk, not being able to get a stop or not being able to score.
Johnson goes 1 for 2 at the line. He's got 5 tonight. Now Metamora working it around. The chance to hold for the last shot with 15 seconds. Mason wants Zobrist over on the right side. I'll go to Walker. Now here's Zobrist. Cross-court pass over to Walker. Down low to Koch. His one-hander from the paint's good. Koch up to 11, and that's the lead for Metamora after 3 quarters of play. Metamora nearly doubling their entire scoring output from the game up to the third quarter in that frame alone. They scored 21 and take an 11-point lead here heading into quarter number 4.
This is what we talked about from the first quarter. When Metamora goes on a run, it's almost impossible to stop them. And Washington did a good job first 2 quarters. Obviously the third, you got to improve on that. But Coach Schermerhorn trying to get his guys rally and do something that a lot of people here in Metamora don't want to see.
Definitely is, as well into the fourth quarter of play. Washington looking to move to 2-3. Metamora looking to go to 3-2. Although, shouldn't take those losses too terribly hard. Again, all of them coming at the TOC. First game for both teams outside of the TOC. So, again, Washington, I believe went 1-3 at the TOC last year. I believe Metamora went 2-2 at the TOC last year. And both ended up having pretty good seasons. Both those teams will get over 500, certainly in due time. Metamora could do so. They're going to hang on for these final 8 minutes. I think if you're Washington, Teddy, I think you got to find a way to give it to C.J. Duncan, who pays a visit right here in front of us. He'll inbound it to Lewis.
Yeah, the first half he was responsible for 50% of your points. He had 22, he had 11 of them, and so far in the third he was left scoreless. Try to get the ball back in his hands as they do so here.
It's big for Washington now, especially after the rule change this year as the fouls reset. So now they're back at 0 team fouls for the quarter, but still dealing with some foul trouble. Again, Martin is 3, Vanderhyde is 3, Johnson is 3, and Jackson is 4. He's back on the floor right now. Johnson contorts his body. Nice board by Duncan. He forces one out. There's Johnson down low, and he'll get fouled. Great resilience and aggressiveness by the Panthers on the offensive glass.
That's exactly what they need to do to get back in the game. Down by 11, but just a few minutes ago it was down by 7, and a little bit before that it was down by 5. It's scratch and claw your way back in. You got 7:24 left.
Back at the Bradley game that I covered on Saturday against Indiana State. Saw one of the quickest scoring runs I've ever seen. Bradley went on a 12-0 run, and 12-0 in about 2 minutes. So that shows you how quick ball game can move. Johnson, but struggling a bit from the line tonight, goes 0 for 2 there after going 1 for 2 just a bit ago. Gree is open in the corner. Sides against the 3. Now here's Zobrist' 3. Nothing but nylon. Zobrist is up to 13. And Metamora has got their biggest lead of the night. That ball goes off the knee of Mason and out of bounds, but Metamora certainly shooting it a lot better, playing a lot better defense here in the second half. I think that's a pretty good recipe for pulling away.
Yeah, they've shown their size and their aggression, something that Washington hasn't really done a whole lot of in the second half, but they get it moving there with C.J. Duncan, their main guy so far tonight. But yeah, defensively, definitely got to try to stop the perimeter focus of Metamora right now.
So Duncan cuts it to 12. Panthers still very much in it with a couple stops, but they can turn up the intensity a bit. Walker's open 3. Washington let him live with that one, and the gamble paid off. Now here's Lewis. Back up top to Duncan. Now Vanderhyde, he's got 7 points tonight. Waits for some movement, he'll hand off to Lewis. Set a screen. They're gonna get Mason, I believe, on the foul for Metamora. That's the Redbirds' second, and Mason's second personal. And we'll get a timeout from Danny Greaves and the Redbirds sideline. Again, in case you're just tuning in or haven't heard the news, I'm sure many people in Metamora have by this point. The entire town's probably heard. But Danny Greaves announced just last night, barely about 24 hours ago, that this season will be his last on the sidelines for the Redbirds. He's doing all right. He just feared that, hey, he just said that, you know, it's time. You know, got a lot of great assistance. He credited those guys a lot in terms of making it, you know, a little bit easier for him to step down. A lot of good assistance on the Metamora sideline, and that's something that every good basketball team like Metamora needs to have. A state caliber team does. I saw a tweet from Curly Boo Johnson, who's a big fan of ours. Curly, if you're watching, hope you're doing well down in Arizona or wherever you may be. But he said that big difference in, you know, good teams and great teams is having a very active assistant coaches. Metamora certainly has some in Jordan Dame, Jake Springer, and many others, and Mike Brockhouse as well.
Another thing you got to think about is, you know, playing for what is your last year as a coach. What does that mean for his players to just elevate their game to try to get it done one last time for their coach that they spent so much time with, and maybe Cooper Koch that he hasn't spent that much time with, but, you know, just try to, you know, appreciate him for the year that he did spend. That definitely is an added factor.
That certainly is an element, Teddy. I'm glad you brought that up because Washington had that as well with their football team this past year. A lot of guys were obviously Washington. They were going to have a pretty good year, I think, regardless. But a lot of those Panther football players, Vanderheid's three is good. That's the big one from the senior forward to draw Washington within 10. But those Panther football players, many of them told me that there's a little bit of extra motivation of wanting to send their head coach Daryl Crouch on a good note, and they certainly had quite the season as well. Let's give you something more to play for. I know these Redbird players, they love their head coach Danny Greaves. Under 5 to play in Toepke Gymnasium. Pass almost deflected by Jackson. Now Greaves, big three in a response for Metamora.
They just keep it pouring on, and Washington cuts it back within 9, just for Metamora to answer right back, not wanting to let up any bit of their lead.
3 Redbirds in double figures. Greaves is the latest with 10. Tough shot for Vanderheit, rattles out. Metamora has certainly been the team that's made the bigger shots tonight, especially from 3. They'll slow it down now as Mason gets the screen from Walker. As it taken away, now Washington could have numbers, 3-on-2. Vanderheit dribbles in, no good. I think maybe Vanderheit could have looked at the basket there, trying to fake him out with a head fake.
Something just to get any bit back on the score column. Metamora's doing a great job of slowing it down, as well as their perimeter shots continue to fall. As Greaves makes another one, he's now up to 13.
He's tied for team high honors with Matthew Zobrist. Johnson's response is good. 3's coming in left and right, but Washington would need 4 more of them to tie up Metamora. Neither team in the bonus. Washington hasn't committed a team foul here in this 4th quarter. Here's Zobrist now. Dribbling in left. Walker feeds down low, and that's a foul on Jackson. If I'm not mistaken, and if it is on him, his night's going to be through. That is on Jackson, so he has fouled out. He'll watch the rest of this one from the Panthers sideline. He'll finish with just 2 points.
Now Will Martin comes in. He's also someone that's seen a little bit of foul trouble today.
He's got 3. Zobrist double dribbled there. Thought about shooting, but then decided to pull it back, and in the process, moved a little bit too quick. Legs moved a little bit quicker than his brain did there, but his team's still in the driver's seat. Lewis driving in on Mason and swatted away. The Winona State commit says, not in my house.
That's something we don't get to see every day, a guard that can jump out of the gym like that. We saw him attempt to throw down at TOC a couple times and some highlight plays, but just like that, defensively, offensively, he's able to get it done.
Mason's a real good above the rim guard for just being 6'2" as a tie-up here. As Vanderheit, a little upset. They're going to send both teams back to their benches here as we see what the aftermath of this will be.
It's like Koch and Vanderheit tied up a little bit down low, fighting for the ball.
I know there's a timeout somewhere, that's all I know.
I believe Metamora or Washington called timeout potentially. And Washington did call the timeout. So they will retain possession. So Panthers have a chance to cut it down to single digits. The bucket here, smartly called out. What a spin move by Johnson, but he's called for the offensive foul. Now that's his 4th. Metamora is such a good team at drawing charges, Teddy.
Johnson letting them hear it a little bit there. I can see how the frustration would build. Feel like a little targeted in a way, but
We're going to get another stoppage here as the bench warning has been assessed to Washington. So tension's just inching up a little bit here. That's what makes a rivalry game great. Just means a little bit more, but
I think you got to give Washington credit too for the amount of fouls that have been given to them. It's a lot closer than a lot of teams would be with those amount of fouls.
And they could have hung their head after that third quarter after Metamora just pounded them down low and got into the bonus pretty quickly. They're hanging into it. They need to get a stop here again. This is where no shot clock really benefiting Metamora. For the TOC, then Metamora's got to obviously shoot within 35 seconds. Now Mason finds the lane. Euro stepping in, kicking to Koch. Could this be the dagger? No, it isn't. But Greaves is right there to clean up the mess. How about the fourth quarter from Ashton Greaves? He's got 14, and that may be enough for a Metamora victory. Vanderheit, he's going to work on Hop down low. Nice feed to Johnson, lays it up and in. Washington's going to have to probably either bring a press or start fouling. They want any hope in this one, but they're just hanging on by a thread at this point.
Got to give Johnson credit, though. Despite having fouls, he's able to be very aggressive down low. Had a good game, despite the score.
Here's Koch now. He'll slow things down. A minute left to play. Nice feed to Hop. He lays it right in. Koch through the double team and finds a wide open Hop. I think we might see that a lot this year from Metamora.
Hop and Koch, we've mentioned a few times them being individually being able to space the floor, but just together they play so well off of each other. It was a lot closer of a game than the score might tell, John. A little frisky,
Our hotspot data has ran out right now, so I apologize for the potentially glitchy ending to that ball game. Hopefully you can still at least hear us on clutchsportsIL.com. And with so many people in this gym, it's tough to get some good Wi-Fi, but we saw what a dominant performance from Metamora, although Washington, again, you mentioned it, really hung in that game well, and I think certainly a lot of good things in store for the Panthers this year. Metamora, it just knew when it was winning time, and you know what, you really spread it out. Guys like Ashton Greaves, Cooper Koch, Matthew Zobis really picked it up in half number 2.
Yeah, Greaves was someone that really was kind of quiet in the first half. You hear the names of the star players like Koch and Mason, but Greaves was stepped up and kind of like what I was mentioning in halftime, just players that you wouldn't expect to be able to do that, just consistently step up, and that's what makes this Metamora team so good. You can't just focus on one guy. They're really well-rounded, and they have been for the past couple years.
Certainly should be, as Metamora will advance to 3-2 on the year, 1-0 in the Mid-Illini. Washington drops to 0-1 in conference play and 1-4 overall. Keep an eye on both these teams, though. I think we're going to see both these teams quite a bit later in the season, especially here on Clutch Sports Media, and also well into the playoffs as well. We're just getting started here. It's basketball season in Peoria. This is the first of many good games to come. Again, stay tuned to our social media for where we might be next. Maybe somewhere later this week. Next week, who knows? Only way to tell is to follow us on Clutch Sports Media on Facebook and Instagram, and on Clutch Sports IL on Twitter. That about will wrap things up from Metamora. For all of our great hardworking crew at Clutch Sports Media, our producer Michael Savoy, our camera operator Dalton Carmian, Elsa Olmstead taking some pictures on the sidelines. Ethan Genders gonna have a pretty good highlight mixtape coming from this one as well. As always, and my broadcast partner Teddy Ball, I'm Jonathan Michael saying goodbye from Toepke Gymnasium. Metamora defends home court with a 58-42 rivalry victory over the Washington Panthers. Until next time, so long, folks. Have a great rest of your night.